Hi, I'm Michael B from TrackandSolo.com, and in this video, we're going to go over lead architecture that's available for free in Studio One Plus. Let's get started. Okay, I've been playing around with Lead Architect for the last couple of evenings. I even put together a short little arrangement I'll play for you at the end of the song with a handful of sounds that I liked with quite a bit of tweaking. But this VST is actually pretty interesting. I kind of went into it figuring that this was just going to be like a lot of the VSTs that are already out there. This lead architect is free to Studio One Plus members, and it might be Studio One Pro. It might be included in that too. I'm not sure. If you don't have Studio One, I saw on Sweetwater that you could pick one up for about $100. So I don't know if that's a limited time or if they're always going to be offering that. But if you're going to if you're going to spend $100 on a VST, this actually might be something you might want to invest $100 in, because this is actually a pretty interesting VST. Basically, what it is it's a sample based hybrid virtual instrument, where it's built on 3 layers of sound. So the whole VST is based on layering different sounds together, and you are choosing what I think are what they call field recordings, and they're adjusted to a point to make them a little more musically, where you have LFOs and filters and envelopes. You also have effects and stuff like that. I'll get into that a little bit more later, but for right now, you're layering 3 different effects that I believe are sampled effects. You can turn them off if you don't want all 3 of them. You can choose the individual ones yourself if you don't like what the presets are. um, to start probably from the beginning, is you have your presets up here, and these presets basically are everything. It picked the 3 layers for that preset. You can choose reverb for each of the presets. You have an FX or an effects button that you have to push for this to start working. You have a delay for each one of the layers. This right here is a pan, as you can see by the pop-up box. So when you're layering these things, the sounds don't necessarily have to fit on top of each other. You can actually, like this one right here, like the waves is exactly in the middle. The air cooking is slightly to the left, and the bells is slightly to the right. So when layering, it's interesting to not just think of layering a sound directly on top of each other, but sometimes you can kind of spread each one of the layers out. You have a cutoff, a sample shift for if you wanted to go up or down an octave. This right here is how you're mixing the 3 sounds together. Like for instance, when you go over this rounded triangle right here, you'll see that this bar is at its maximum length, which means that I believe in this case the waves would be at 100% and these would be at 0. If you go up to this triangle up here, you can see that the bar is at its maximum, which means that the bells are at 100% and these are at 0. And then if you go to this one right here, and again, this bar is at 100%, and I believe that this would be the middle one, the air cooker. And then you can mix anywhere in between right here. And then of course you have your attack, delay, release, and decay right here. Down here you can add an arpeggiator. You can turn it on. In fact, when you click it, this was already, it's on. And then here are some detail controls to control your arpeggiator. You can turn it off and close it. You can open up a repeater. This is really fun and interesting to play with. I spent quite a long time playing around with this the other day. This is super interesting. You can adjust the notes, steps, the velocity, even the gate, the scale. There's a bunch of different on both the repeater and the arpeggiator. Again, you can adjust the notes, you can adjust the octaves. This right here, actually, you have different sort of sequences or patterns over here that will change your patterns over here. And then if that isn't enough, if you want to have more adjustments for these individual sounds, you can click up here. And when this is highlighted, you have LFOs, filters, your envelope, you have 2 racks of effects here: distortion, bit crusher, modulation. If you go to the second rack, you have a gator, EQ, and a pan. If you highlight this one, you can adjust everything individually for that. You click on this one and you can adjust everything for that. So it has some very unique, interesting sounds that it's already set up for. The main, this is written even in the literature that or the manual that came with this, is this is really designed more to come up with unique sounds for like a melody or a lead or something like that. There are some good sounds out here that you could try. Like there's a folder for a pad, and these are nice pad. A lot of these are nice sounding, and you can use them, but it doesn't compare to an analog pad. I think a pad to a lot of people can mean a lot of different things. It's like a sound that's like sustained for a very long time. And I've seen people like on YouTube and stuff pretty much take any sound and then they can manipulate it so it's just a long sustaining sound, and that's kind of what they're calling a pad. There's some interesting sounds in here, but let's go through some of the sounds for, let's say, the lead sound. So I have it set up for lead right now. Let me check to make sure my loop is on. My loop is on. Let's go ahead and audition some of the lead type sounds so you can see. Now each one of these folders, again, it will choose each one of these sounds for you, but you can also go through and change these individually. So you can come up with your own different layers for if you wanted to change them, to again to change the preset sound into something that's a little more original to you, or something that will fit the song a little bit better, or the fit the tonal qualities of the song a little bit better. But let's go through some of these. I won't go through all of them because there's a million of them on here, but you'll kind of get the idea of what you're working with here. What it a lot of this reminds me of more like a FM synth type sound when you listen to these. So if you layered this on top, even though these are 3 layers as it is, you could layer this on top of like an analog synth and probably come up with to give it even more depth, because that's kind of what, when I'm listening to this, is I'm missing the analog feel to it. It's very crisp and very sort of chimey sounding and airy sounding. So something like this would be really good to layer on top of an analog synthesizer. Let's go ahead and I'm going to just cruise through a bunch of these sounds, and then I'll go ahead and put that little arrangement together, or I'll play the arrangement for you so you can tell what I'm talking about. Like this one sounds okay, but that buzzing is a little annoying, and you can kind of see that it's heavily on the waves right here. So if you wanted to get more of the air cooking and the bells here, so the top would be the bells, and this is the air cooking. And again, you can kind of see how much is mixed when you're mixing, to get an idea of how the mixing goes. And you can also jump in here too and change the effects. Can't hear that too much, but like the EQ. And again, these, all you need to do is highlight each one of these, and like if you wanted to EQ each one of these, then you could go through and EQ each one separately. I know I'm being kind of picky, but I kind of wish that for I kind of wish that like down here, like each one of these sounds has a reverb and a delay for the individual sounds, and then you have like a master reverb that controls the output of all of these, an overall. It's the same thing with the delay. You can adjust each delay for each one of these individually, and then this mix is the entire delay with all of these three mixed with their individual delay settings. I kind of wish that like it had an EQ set up like that too, because when I was going through and adjusting some of these sounds, I always immediately had to go to the EQ to adjust something for it to fit the song, and then what I'd have to do is kind of go through each one of these like I just did here and have to manually do each one of them if I just wanted to just tweak a little bit of one frequency, where if there was a master EQ that was at the end of the chain of all of these, or that was included in this, would have been nice. But considering everything that this VST has, it's really not a big deal to just use the EQ in your mixer, which I think that I would prefer to use that anyways because I'm so used to it. Let's quickly go through some more of these sounds. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, see, like a sound like this, what could you use this sound? Maybe lo-fi? I don't know. So that is from the folder that they call Acoustic Decaying. So these all have the arpeggiator, which is kind of interesting. Let me see. You have your arpeggiator on down here. Let's play this bit on here. Let's come back to the arpeggiator, because the arpeggiator would be better instead of using it for using a MIDI melody, using MIDI chords instead. In fact, I could just jump over to this right now. Let's do that. Let's open up some chords and let's check out some of these the arpeggiators on here. We'll open this up down here. Yeah, some of these sounds are so grainy and stuff. I'm not sure what you could possibly use these things for. They're so distorted or distorted sounding. Yeah, this one's you have ascending if you want to change it, descending here. actually even use this for the melody. If you had some chord MIDI, a chord MIDI file, and you wanted to make a melody out of it, you could actually use this. This sound right here, I actually used this in my arrangement using this pattern because I thought that this sounded so interesting. But let's check out some of these other ones. Like I said, some of these things are so grainy sounding. Again, maybe using it for lo-fi. I don't know. I heard this one someplace before, I'm not sure. Anyways, that's it for the arpeggio folder. And check out some of the chord mono is what they're calling it. See, there's so much noise that comes from that. Like I said, this would actually be great for if you make lo-fi music. The pads, I went through the pads. They're interesting sounding, but as I said before, I think to layer this VST on top of an analog VST with a pad sound, I think would probably sound great. Let's listen to some of these real quick. Again, very, very light and airy sounding, which is nice. It doesn't have the warmth of analog, though. This one's a little bit better. And you have the LFOs and the filter to adjust, but again, if you want to make those adjustments, you have to individually adjust them as opposed to having like a master cutoff adjustment, like a master filter. So it'll take you a little bit longer to come up with to achieve what you're looking for, but another pipe organ sounding. This is that's actually the sound that I used in my arrangement that I'm going to play in just a couple minutes here, but I just wanted to go through a couple more of these and then we'll get to the arrangement. This is where the panning comes in. If you're listening through headphones or if you can hear stereo right now, you can hear that this is very heavily on this heating oscillator over here. So if you wanted to bring it in a little bit so it's more balanced, that sounds a little bit better. like that sound though. We have some other ones here. Very light and airy. That's kind of interesting. Okay, and let's do repeater next. And if you notice that the repeater is the repeater button on, and let's go ahead and hit play for this. And you can make some changes down here. All you have to do is click this on. This shows that the power is on for the repeater, and then if you click it again, then you have more adjustments. So that's sort of unusual. And two more sections really quick. We'll just run through these. Synthetic mono. Everything's in mono. What was this called? This was called bad computing. Not sure why it's called synthetic mono, because it doesn't sound like it's in mono at all. Yeah, these are not in mono, so I'm not sure why it's called that. All right, and then there's one more folder. We may as well hit this really quick. This is synthetic staining. I like these a little bit better than some of those other sounds. Oh, this one's a good one. Still sounds kind of noisy though, like a gated, noisy clock. I think the synthetic sustaining probably would be better for like chords or longer sustaining notes, where this melody has a lot of short notes in duration. This is really a pretty decent VST. If you're up to spend $100 on a VST, I would say that this is probably worth it with all the features, the unique sounds that you can come up with, And also, if you layered it on top of, let's say, like an analog synth, you could probably come up with some very interesting, very deep sounds with the warmth of an analog VST, along with more of a crisp and a more airy sort of FM, to me, sounding synth like LEADArchitect. I'd probably go out and pick it up. And again, if you're not a Studio One Plus member, I saw it on Sweetwater for about $99, so you could pick it up and use it on whatever DAW that you're using. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and play you that arrangement using I think about 4 different sounds from this. So let's get started on that. Okay, I put a quick little arrangement together that I have with my sort of my standard template drum setup, and I have a bunch of MIDI notes in here. My kick drum, I have the low and the high. This I used a sort of more of a duller sound of a kick drum. This has the high one has more of a tap to it, and then I did some EQing to emphasize um, a little bit more of the high while rolling out more of the lows. And this one, it would be just the opposite, emphasizing the lows and rolling out more of the highs, because I wasn't quite happy with the sample that I had downloaded. When I listened to it initially, I liked it, but once I started using it in a song, I wasn't really that thrilled with it. So to get around with that, I decided to layer it. This is more really of a hand clap than of a snare. I got hi-hat that's pan left and pan right, about 50%. I have an open hi-hat. These two are closed, by the way. 2 splash cymbals, a longer crash. I went with 2 bass. This is the same sound, but I altered both of them. And I'll show you that right now. What I chose for the bass sound is, in fact, let's just solo this out and I can play it for you. This is the high. So just like I did with the kick drum, I rolled off everything at what frequency is this? I think it's 100. No, it's 50. So this is 50 hertz. So I dipped everything by 50 hertz because I wanted more of a higher part of the bass sound, because I have the same sound. This is the Oplia, I guess is how it's pronounced. I use the exact same sound over here, but I'm using this as my sub bass, and as you can see right here, I've got the EQ boosted for that sound, for that sound, and for that sound. And as far as the effects goes, because this is the sub bass, I made sure that there was I left the chorus on to try to get more of a thicker sound, but I turned the width all the way down for every single one of these, because I want my bass, my sub bass, to be as tight in the center as possible. But I still wanted to leave these effects on to give it a little more of a fatter sound. And I did set each one of these for mono, because again, I want this center channel for the sub bass. Use the exact same sound over here, but this time I dipped, what was it, 50 hertz or 60 hertz. So I dipped all those down. So I have my sub bass, and then I have this. But with here, when I left the phaser on, it's not mono, it's stereo, and the width is not is somewhat wide, but not super wide, because since this is the bass sound, I still want it tight towards the center, but not too close to the center. And you'll see, like, the width here is at about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. If I go to my next one, you'll see that the width of the bass is a little bit tighter. And if I go to this one, it's even tighter than that. And then, of course, my sub bass, if we go back to my sub bass, you'll see that it's in mono, and I have the width turned down on every single one of these. So whenever you're layering, kind of think about stuff like that, that if you're going to go with something that's in stereo, each layer, try to have have each layer a different width within the stereo spectrum. So I'm just going to go ahead and play this bass part, and then you can hear basically what I came up with as far as the bass goes. And as I said, it's kind of unusual sounding. Here's the sub bass. Give it a second. And sounds interesting with the song. I know it doesn't sound that great listening to it by itself. And then I have this side chain, the sub bass with my kick drum. The lead instrument that I came up with this, which is called Basic. And I forgot which one this was under. This was under synthetic staining, Basic. And I did go through here and make a bunch of changes. I put like the arpeggiator on here and made a bunch of different adjustments. That's why you can see this little star up here, or this little asterisk. That means that I went through and I made a bunch of changes, particularly to the EQ, and I rolled a lot of the bass frequencies off of each one of these because I wanted this sound, even though this is more of a, well, you'll hear in a second. I do have the arpeggiator on this, already set for this. And this is my lead, and this is what it sounds like. Interesting, right? I put a ton of delay on there. It gave me more of a Plux sort of element to it. So, and I love to when the duration of notes are super short like that, I like to put a delay on there with a lot of echo. So that was that. For the chords, I went with, this one was one of the ones that was under pads. It's called Floating. Let me see. I think it was under here. Yeah, Floating. It's right here. This one again, I went through and made a bunch of changes. I really didn't adjust this too much. This again is the balance between the three different sounds. But I did play around with the panning a little bit to open it up. Again, this is the panning, a little more than 50%. For the heating oscillators is what it's called. And then this is the heating oscillators again. This is a bit different. I added a little more delay, a little more reverb. I think I basically did the same thing. I cut out a lot of the low end so the bass could fit through this sound, particularly since it's a pad. I wanted to get the pad sound, but this is very light and airy is what I would call it. Let's go ahead and listen to that. Let me see. That's not what we wanted. We wanted this one. This will take a second. Of course, it sounds like pipe organs, right? But according to this, these are the three heating oscillators. I'm not sure what a heating oscillator is. Maybe there's a heating oscillator and a pipe organ, but it definitely reminded me of pipe organs, and I thought that was interesting. And the arpeggiator, I decided to use this as more of effects, like an effect sound that plays throughout the whole song. Here it goes. And what was sort of interesting about this is when I picked this sound, this bell, The arpeggiator I don't think was on. If it was on, it wasn't set to this pattern. This is a very odd pattern. We can go through some of these patterns so you can get an idea of what the different patterns sound like for this. Odd. You can see the pattern that it's playing down here. And this one, to me, sounded the most interesting. So I jumped in here and I did a little EQing again, getting rid of the lower frequency so the bass and the kick drum, it's not competing against anything. And I added a little upper mid-range to the bells. And those were the three sounds that I came up with. So let's go ahead and play that. Play this little arrangement that I put together. Let's take it from the top, and here we go. Well, that's it. If you have Studio One, you might have it with Professional. I'm not sure, but I know it's free with Studio One Plus. And in fact, I actually found that you can get this on Sweetwater. I think it's like about $100. So even if you don't have Studio One, you do have a way of getting this VST if you want to. That's it. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you later.